Aloha, and welcome to the latest edition of Telehealth in Hawaii. I'm your host, Vikram Acharya. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cloudwell Health, a Hawaii-based healthcare provider that prides itself on providing locally based, accessible medical care. We have a very exciting show for you today. March of 2023 is National Kidney Awareness Month, and what better to have on the show than a nephrologist, a kidney doctor. Dr. Stephanie Gilibert, practicing physician here in Hawaii, is going to talk to us about the kidneys. Enjoy the show. Mahalo. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm well. Hello from the Big Island, or I should say aloha.
Aloha. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. I know you run a very busy schedule. I appreciate you being on the show. It's a very exciting show today. It's National Kidney Awareness Month. But to get things started, you are a nephrologist. What got you into medicine? And specifically, what got you involved with the kidneys?
Well, I went into medicine because I was doing a lot of volunteering and working in hospitals. My mom comes from a pharmacy background. And the beauty of nephrology is everyone has a real problem. We can always tell and confirm by labs. And there's a lot of lab trends to follow. There's a lot of numerics, and I like math.
Mm-hmm. Were there other specialties you looked at, cardiology, gastroenterology, or was it, hey, I love the kidneys and that's what I want to do?
I was thinking about geriatrics.
Okay.
A lot of the older patients. The majority of my patients are medically old. Not even numerically, but medically old. If you've had high blood pressure and diabetes for 20, 30 years of your life, even if you start at 10 or 20 years old, these are things that accumulate through our lifetime and make our bodies age faster. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy the complicated patient. I enjoy educating the complicated patient. And I most enjoy educating the generations, how to prevent, how to treat, how to stop this or treat it and slow it down so all the generations are not on dialysis.
Right, right. Now, March is National Kidney Awareness Month. For our for our non-clinical audience, what do the kidneys do exactly for our bodies?
Well, if we want to start with, are you even born with normal kidneys? We know that some people are born premature, small, tiny, and they may not even find out they have kidney problems till they're older. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they can tell when babies are born, but a lot of young men don't find out until they start bulking up with doing sports in high school. Some women never even find out they have one kidney until they're pregnant and their blood pressure starts to shoot up. Mm-hmm. Some people realize that I thought it was fine. I make a lot of urine, or shishi as we call it here in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. But then they start noticing headaches, and it's because their blood pressure is so high that their heart's pounding away at their brain or their kidneys, or they start to swell, or they start to have bubbles and foam in their urine like beer out of a tap. All of these things indicate that the kidneys, which are usually filters, the heart, if you want to think of it, is like the engine of our body. It pumps blood. It should pump blood sufficiently with correct speed and correct pressure through the kidneys, which are like sponges, filtering the blood to make the urine. They exchange salt, electrolytes like potassium, calcium, phosphorus. They balance acid and bicarbonate in our body. And the kidneys are smart. They regulate the salt. So we don't have blood pressure problems. So sometimes swelling, bubbles, high blood pressure are signs that that's your body's way of saying your check engine light is on. But people don't always translate that to kidney failure or to kidney problems because the majority of people don't even know they have any kidney problem until they're like at 30%. And by then, we've lost the opportunity to take the road not traveled, to go the other way, to slow it down, or potentially to even treat it. So we know kidneys should filter if you have two normal kidneys. Again, we won't know until you have an ultrasound. We would then be able to know what's the size of your kidneys. Do you have two normal looking kidneys? Are they blocked up with kidney stones, which is pretty darn common on the islands because we sweat so much and people don't eat as perfect a diet as we should because sometimes the food trucks are tempting and the 2 kilo plate lunch is dangerous for our blood sugars. So we need kidneys to make urine, to do the cleaning in our body, to help regulate things like bone health, hemoglobin or anemia, to help our body absorb iron, to help our body use vitamin D from the help of the sun to strengthen our bones and to make urine. But even if your kidneys fail, you don't die. We have renal replacement therapies or dialysis, kidney transplant, and other choices.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting you mentioned that. So there are some patients that you take care of or that have one kidney. They've lived their life with, and
sometimes
everything.
After transplant, people end up with 3 kidneys. Although I did meet a woman who had 6.
6 kidneys.
She got a transplant from an infant who had was not survivable, so she got 2 baby kidneys, and then when those failed, she got another set of baby kidneys. So she had 2 old ones and 4 transplanted ones.
Wow. Now it's a nice analogy you mentioned of the kidneys being like a sponge, and we need to keep the sponge healthy and we need to keep the sponge clean. What are some things we can do to do that? What do you recommend to your patients, to people that want to keep up with their health? What are some things we can do?
Leading a heart healthy lifestyle is the most important thing. Finding out if you have a family history of kidney problems, blood pressure, high blood pressure specifically, or sugar diabetes. I always call it sugar diabetes because some people know the problem is high sugar, or some people know it as the medical term diabetes. So finding out what your body health is first the most important, and it requires blood tests, lab tests, and then seeing your primary care doctor, eating a prudent diet, meaning conservative. I think it's harder as people get older, they think they should retire and enjoy life and not have health restrictions. But being healthy is everyone's first full-time job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you don't do your full-time job correctly, problems will occur later in life. And you have to find how to coordinate your doctor's appointments, your medication taking with whatever else you do in your life. So a lot of people now use smartphones to set times to remind them to drink water or to remind them to take their meds on time, to check their blood pressure. Know what the numbers mean? That top number is the force at which your heart beats the hardest. And the diastolic, that bottom number, is when your heart's relaxing. Both numbers are quite important because it tells us if our body's in balance. Do we need a little medication so the heart can be nicer to the kidneys to control the blood pressure? Are we controlling the size of our body? When we're born, our kidneys are born with us. They don't get more filtering units. You're born with, pardon the Austin Powers, thing, 1 million kidney filtering units in each kidney. But as we get older, the kidneys continue to age, similar to when you buy a brand new car. The moment you drive it off the lot, that odometer starts to turn. Do we hit potholes? Do we go off-roading with our cars? We hope not. It would last longer if we were conservative drivers. So being the driver in that car, do we continue to, stay alive, drive 55, be prudent, not run out of our medications, like you don't run out of gas in the middle of nowhere, take the medications on time, be smart about driving, be smart about eating, be smart about exercise. So we need to exercise our bodies. Just don't need to go to a gym, just walk. We have pedometers. People don't realize that it's built into our smartphones. Mm-hmm. Some of them, they don't even realize it's been tracking their steps. Most people say 10,000 steps a day. It really means don't sit on the couch and put food in your mouth. It means keep moving. A body that is in motion, we always say, stays in motion. Yeah. And this will keep your kidneys healthy.
Right. Now, there's always this, everybody always talks about not only taking care of yourself physically, but also you mentioned drinking water. On average, how many glasses of water should we, I know it's probably depend on how big we are, perhaps,
Oh, that's debated.
but how many glasses of water should we be drinking a day?
It used to be the 8-ounce glasses, but it's a little different here. If you sweat a lot, if you work outside, I've done that. I've actually weighed myself in the morning, then weighed myself when I came in from gardening, and I've lost 5 or 6 pounds. And I knew I was dehydrated because I stood up, get a little gray and dizzy. So I know on weekends I drink 3 or 4 liters because it depends on how much I'm sweating. But if people have gout, if people have kidney stones, they do need to drink that more than 8 ounces, 8-ounce glasses a day. We like to do liters more in nephrology because 1 liter, which is 2 bottles of water, is technically about 1 kilogram. It's just easier mathematically. Yeah. But everyone's different. If they have high blood pressure, if they already have leg swelling, there may be restrictions so they don't go into heart failure. So each person needs to ask their own physician. If you don't yet know if you have kidney stones, it's something they'll find out with an ultrasound. So these are things that most kidney doctors start with. Do the imaging, check the labs, and then similar to a prescription, how much fluid you drink is unique to you.
Yeah. Now, many patients don't see you right off the bat, right? Normally they go to a primary care doctor detects some concerns and then they are referred to you. How does that normally work?
So the kidneys clean something called creatinine out of our bloodstream. When they do a standard lab panel, the creatinine is part of it. It's just a marker of how much the kidneys clean out, how much protein you eat in a day, how much muscle mass you have, and if you're hydrated versus dehydrated. A lot of these things play into the calculation of what we call eGFR. The E is for estimated, because similar to weight, it's never exactly the same all the time, but it can vary based on medications, hydration, age, muscle mass, sex, men, women. They used to have a change in the calculation based on African American, but we did away with that several years ago as nephrologists and everybody in the world and in the nation, because there was no true race changes based on kidney function. So that creatinine will give you what's called the eGFR, estimated glomerular filtration rate, which is the amount of the creatinine that is filtered by the 1 billion glomeruli in each kidney per minute, assuming you have standard body mass. Nobody has standard body mass. So you have to actually also examine your patient, look at their nutritional status, look at their medications. And based on that eGFR, they will be able to tell you what stage your kidney function is at. So if patients get a copy of their labs, or they specifically ask, Doc, what's my eGFR? What percent in layman's terms do my kidneys work? They'll tell you. It's printed, automatically calculated, thanks to all the labs over the last several years. In the past, the labs didn't calculate it well. They would just say you're over 60%, assuming that was normal. And then suddenly, the moment people were 59%, everyone would freak out. So lately, in the last several years, it is standard for a lab panel to automatically give the doctors and patients a calculation of their kidney function so they know the stage.
Okay.
And there's stages 1 through 5. 5 means dialysis, less than 15%. I call it percent because milliliters per minute is, it's a mouthful and nobody knows what it means.
Now, you're a practicing nephrologist in Hawaii, and there are not enough nephrologists to meet current demands. And you're specifically on the Big Island, you practice on the Big Island. I know it's probably very hard in terms of being able to access medical care, especially around nephrology for the Big Island. Is that true?
Correct. There were two nephrologists on the Big Island, and this county has a population of, I believe, last count was somewhere around 206,000 people. There was one physician on East Hawaii and one nephrologist physician on West Hawaii. So I moved to East Hawaii, and I only serve East Hawaii, and my office staff is local as well. So it is increased the number of nephrologists on the island.
Double. And you mentioned before the patients you see, do you stress to them a lot of the things that you mentioned when it comes to diet, when it comes to being outside, drinking water, the plate reference you mentioned in terms of calorie consumption, specifically for Hawaii and many of the residents in the state, what do you recommend in terms of healthy lifestyles to protect your kidneys?
Well, Hawaii has a high proportion, and basically the Pacific Islanders, of unrecognized diabetes mellitus and hypertension. It's actually nationally now known that it was unknown that the Pacific Islanders are losing kidney function at a rate higher than that of the mainland to diabetes mellitus and hypertension. I believe that a lot of people honestly think their family history is just kidney failure, and it's inevitable. However, education is the most important thing any doctor can do. I'm not their mom. I don't get to go home with them. I don't get to stare at everything they buy at the store. I don't have to be with them every moment of the day. So effective education is the number one important thing. Reiterate. I type out instructions to them in layman's terms, see if they can repeat it back. Make sure they understand what their numbers are in terms of that EGFR. There's another number called the UACR, urine albumin creatinine ratio. It tells you how much those kidney filters are leaking albumin protein. You should eat protein, and it should stay in your body. It shouldn't come out in your shishi in the form of bubbles filling the toilet. That means your kidneys are damaged. The filters are losing your inherent nutrition through it. So if people can start to first recognize when they have a kidney problem, see their primaries, get the referral to the nephrologist so that we can work on education specific to them. Most people do need to work on portion control, again, depending on their activity levels. They need to know what their cholesterol is, because kidneys should filter blood, not sugary, sweet, syrupy, thick blood, not oily, gross, high cholesterol blood, and definitely not blood that's being forced through it at a high pressure from the heart and uncontrolled high blood pressure. All of these things damage our kidneys. If our kidneys fail before we get older, you could end up on dialysis. You could need a kidney transplant, or you can end up having side effects of more swelling, higher blood pressure, needing more medication. So the most important thing we tell our patients about diet is don't stick it in your mouth if you're not going to burn off the calories, because your body will just keep accumulating the fat, the sugar, and the salt. It doesn't come off easy. I think everybody knows it's easy to gain weight. It's near impossible to lose it, especially as we get older.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned that you're one of two nephrologists on Big Island. How much is East Hawaii? How much can telehealth improve access, especially around an area like nephrology, where it's very difficult to, because simply there aren't enough? How much has telehealth helped your patients get access to you, or even new patients that need to see you?
I knew you'd ask that question.
You knew it was coming.
So education's possible. People would first need, we're going to say, Wi-Fi access, internet access on Big Island. I have some patients who live off grid. Even my husband texted me on the way into work because he could only text because the power went out again. Mm-hmm. It knocks out your Wi-Fi. So sometimes you can't even get cell phone reception if you're on cell phone Wi-Fi. So it is difficult. A lot of our patients do drive sort of even where I live, like Pahoa, sort of southern part. There's limited infrastructure. Josh Green, get us better roads. To go from the Puna Pahoa area, in some areas it's one road to get into Hilo, and same thing up to Mountain View on 11. There aren't circuitous routes. If the road goes down, we're all stuck. Could we talk to people on the phone? Yes. I have telehealth patients. We can educate. We can talk about labs. We can discuss things. Mm-hmm. But most of my patients know, especially the ones in the hospital, I need to also feel them. Mm-hmm. I need to see how bad is the edema, the swelling, how tight is it? Is it soft? What does their skin texture feel like? What does it look like? What are their ankles look like? Do they have ankles because they're so swollen? Mm-hmm. What are their feet and their slippers look like? Or are they puffy? So telehealth is a great start. There has to be some hands-on somewhere in there. Telehealth is a great in-between to say, mm-hmm. Hey, doc, my blood pressure's high. This is what it's been over the last several weeks. How do we fine-tune things? Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that telehealth could be the only way to communicate as a kidney doctor with the patient, unless there's a human being on the other side to help. I have some family members that I make them put their thumb against their shin bone and hold it there for seconds until their fingers sink in, and then show me on video how far their fingers sunk in and how big of a divot there is.
Interesting. What does that do?
It's great. Oh, it tells me how much swelling, how much fluid retention, to be able to talk about sodium, diuretics, changes in blood pressure meds. I do have to say that it works great if I'm looking at the bottom of someone's foot, because most patients, unless I get on the floor to look at their feet, it's hard for most patients to even look at their foot, but a family member can easily point a camera to their feet. So yeah, phones are more flexible than most people, but it has to be a coordinated effort between telehealth visits and in-person visits.
Right. Now, many of your patients, I'm sure there's some great success stories, where maybe you found them at a certain stage when it comes to taking care of themselves and their kidneys. And after you took good care of them, they've really started to improve. Really started to take better care of themselves. They feel better. Their kidneys are better. Obviously, without mentioning any names, is there any specific stories you'd like to share about how things really changed?
I have a couple of patients who didn't realize how much their smoking was damaging their kidneys. Yep. Everyone wants a magic pill. But as I said before about food, the most important thing is what not to put into your body. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves a good beef jerky or a ahi jerky. And I liken that to kidneys. Just smoking meat dries them out to the point of dry and crispy. And smoking, each cigarette tightens up the blood vessels, makes the kidneys age faster. So some of them have stopped smoking completely. The benefit is less blood pressure. They've also been getting less infections because for some reason, everyone seems to wash their hands after they smoke instead of before, and they're putting it in their mouth. So everyone's scared of COVID. I'm scared of COVID because it hurts the kidneys. So part of the teaching for all my tobacco users or smokers, even the vapors, is wash your hands before you stick something in your mouth. It doesn't matter what it is. And back off, because you're harming your kidneys every single time you light up. Mm-hmm. I had another patient who, actually several, who don't realize that sleep apnea doesn't mean snoring. Sleep apnea really means you're suffocating at night. And as human beings, we can't live without oxygen. We can't live without water. So if people suffocate at night, their kidneys do get shocked every time they close their eyes when they nap, every time they go to sleep at night. So people don't realize how much sleep apnea also damages the kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
I have a gentleman who was, before I got here, ready to start dialysis. He had a shunt in his arm and everything.
Mm.
We talk about sleep apnea, go through his entire health history. The only thing he could have done better is actually wear his CPAP at night to keep his kidneys healthy. And he started doing that, and it's still been 6 months. His numbers are better than they were before September. And he would rather wear his CPAP every night he's asleep in his own bed in the comfort of his own home than be sitting on a dialysis machine 3 days a week with attachment by 2 needles for that treatment. So it's giving the patient the option, letting them know this is a problem. This is something you can do to fix it. It's not me. Again, I'm not their mom. I get to educate them, and I tell them, you can take this education and you could say, thanks, doc, shove it. Some people do, and that's fine. They can live their life. Everyone has the right to live their life the way they wish. But if they wish to live their life with healthy kidneys, it's got to be that doctor-patient relationship. There's got to be a give and take.
Right. And it starts with, like you said, the baby steps. One day at a time, putting on the CPAP machine when you sleep, and every day you gain more and more momentum, and then hence the results of better health. Incremental steps.
And everyone's allowed to backslide. We're human. It's just, how do we consistently just keep trying? It's not going to be easy, but it's still them in control. And I think that's the most important thing with education. They have to want to change, and it has to be easy. It's not a special diet. It literally is their lifetime. Yeah.
Dr. Gilibert, I know you run a very busy schedule, like I mentioned, and the life of a nephrologist is clinic. It's going to the dialysis unit, going to the hospital, and I know you get called all day and night. And you took the time to talk to us about a very important subject, how to take care of ourselves. And you really broke it down very nicely, especially for those of us that don't know much about the kidneys. Even learned today that we have 2, some people have 1. And then you broke it down into all the different facets of how we can take better care of ourselves as well as our kidneys. And I'd like to thank you for that. I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time, being on the show, and doing such a great job of articulating the importance of health and well-being, especially this month being Kidney Awareness Month. Thank you very much.
Everyone, take care of your kidneys, please. They're the only ones you have. I think some people take better care of their cars than their bodies, but I think we have to make ourselves a priority. And sometimes it's just they need the education, because this is not something you're going to easily read on the internet. There isn't a way that Dr. Google can say, I've looked at all your labs, I've looked at your imaging studies, I've heard about how you live your life, where you live, and this is what you need to do for you. This is how you can make yourself better.
You have to see your primary care physician, take better care of yourselves, and ask the tough questions with your doctor. Well said. Thank you very much. Mahalo for being on the show.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.